So as we begin this practice, we start hips to heels in the hero's position. And if you feel more supported by being on a block here, by all means, because we will be here a couple of minutes. And then I'd like to suggest just you find a nice resting place for the hands, and the palms can be up or down, totally your choosing. I tend to notice my shoulders are often leaning forward, so I'm just going to invite the front of my body to soften back. And then you could keep your eyes open, or if it feels nice to close them. We're just going to drop into finding our breath. And the title of today's practice is called Being in the Pause. And the meaning of that will kind of build as we move through this 45-minute all levels flow practice. But we'll begin by just identifying the two action parts of the breath, the inhale and the exhale. And at this point, there's nothing you need to do to those parts of the breath. You're just noticing them. You're identifying when you're breathing in and you're being fully aware of the breath coming in. And then you're identifying when you're breathing out and you're fully aware of breathing out. And after you do that a couple of times, we're going to begin to experiment with identifying the pause in the breath. So the next time that you inhale, just notice that there's a brief pause at the top of the inhale where you're completely full of breath. And then when the body tells you to, go ahead and exhale. No need to hold it where it's uncomfortable. And again, at the bottom of the exhale, there's another pause where you've fully released all the air. There's a sort of emptiness. And just continue for a few more cycles of that, just seeing if in addition to the action parts of the breath, you can also identify that pause at the top and the bottom. And you may find, we're just going to be with this for about 30 more seconds, that as you identify the pause, it naturally kind of broadens. It kind of expands just by you placing your awareness on it. And that's what it means to just be in the pause. Let yourself take one more round of breath. Just acknowledging that pause. And then if it feels good and you trust my voice, you could keep the eyes closed as we move into some seated cat and cow. Or if you're ready to open the eyes, we start to lift the chest, lift the heart, finding like a seated cow, and then rounding the spine, chin towards the chest, seated cat. And just rippling back and forth just about 3 or 4 times here as we start to move into our warm-up flow. Letting this be really fluid through the spine. And then the next time you come through a neutral position with the spine, just stay with that neutrality. Drop your right arm towards the floor. If your eyes are closed, you could open them. Thread the left arm behind your low back. Now you could just let the palm rest on the low back here, or if it feels comfortable to take your left hand and find your right bicep, do that. And then let the left ear just gently descend towards the left shoulder. And as you take a few breaths here, I want you to focus on really releasing all of the weight of that right shoulder down towards the mat. And then we're going to maintain almost everything. We're just going to let your chin dip towards your left hip. And just notice where that sensation moves. Take one more breath here. And then let the head just drift back up to center. You're going to release that left hand. I'm just turning sideways so you can see this. You're going to bring your left hand behind you. You could stay up on fingertips or plant the palm. Sweep your right arm up and just see if you can lift. Maybe it's just an inch, the hips off of the heels, or maybe it's a little bit more. It's kind of like a hybrid of a half camel here. Stretching the front of the thighs, the hip flexors, getting a little bit of a back bending sensation in the spine. Last inhale. And then exhale, you're going to release out of that. Walk your fingertips forward in front of the knees, tuck your toes, and we're immediately going to start to lift into a just standing forward fold. Heels drop, hips towards the ceiling. Now we're going to flow back and forth between a squat and this forward fold 3 times. So we're going to drop into the squat. The heels are going to lift. We're just kind of warming up the knees and the ankles, and then drop the heels and lift the seat up. And do that 2 more times. Lift the heels, find that little ball on your mat, and then drop the heels, folding, feeling the hamstrings. And do that 1 more time, finding your little tight ball, folding forward. Now this last time that you forward fold, you're going to let your knees descend to the mat, but keep your toes tucked for a toe stretch. Now if this is intense for you, hands can stay right here. You can also experiment with coming any degree up. So you could stay at a diagonal or you could slide all the way up. We're going to take 4 breaths here and resist. Sometimes my glutes want to kind of save me from this pose by engaging and lifting me up. Settle down. Drop in. 2 more breaths. A really nice time to just reconnect with the breath. Can you still feel that pause here? And then we're going to walk the hands forward. We're going to find an all fours position. We're going to move into a nice flow here as we extend the right leg up. And we're going to reach the right toes up and find like a cow position here as we arch the spine. The knee towards the nose, rounding the spine. Then back into that extended back bend. Now listen carefully. Flex your right foot. Bring your right toes down to the mat. And then scoop and lift left knee to nose. Lower left knee back to the mat. Lift that right leg back up, back bend. Lower the right knee next to the left. We'll do that sequence on the second side. Left leg up, you're in that extended back bend of cow. Knee to nose, tightening into your cat. Extended back bend in cow. Flex the left foot, toes to the back of the mat, scoop and lift, right knee to nose. Right knee down, find your back bend. Lower that left knee. 1 more time to the right. Lift that right up. Extended back bend. Knee to nose. Extended back bend. Flex the right foot. Toes to the back of the mat. Scoop and lift. Left knee down. Extended back bend. Knee to nose. 1 little addition here. Listen carefully. Extended back bend. Tuck your left toes, press up 3-legged dog, hold for 3. So as we start to extend this idea of being in the pause, 1 more breath in here. Lower your right foot down, take 3 breaths in down dog. You're welcome to make this kind of moving, getting to know you down dog. We think about a lot of times in our yoga practice, we focus a lot on the action part of the practice, the getting into and the getting out of the poses, which is the equivalent of the inhale and the exhale of the practice. Let's lower the knees to the mat. Sit back down to your hero's position. Start to move into a few rounds of that seated cat and cow as we start that whole warm-up sequence again on the second side. And so the idea in this practice is that we're not just focused on the getting in and the getting out of the poses, but we're also really taking the time to be in the pause of the pose, to actually be in it and work with it. Find that nice neutral spine. Drop your left arm alongside you. Right hand is going to thread behind. It may just stay on your low back. If your shoulder's tight, this is fine. Or if it feels good to find that left bicep, do so. And then drop right ear to right shoulder. And so noticing when you get in a pose like this where we're here for a few breaths, does your mind immediately try to go something like to another thing that's action oriented? Or can it be in the pause of the pose? Let your chin drift down towards the right hip. As your head drifts back up to center, your right fingertips are going to come behind you. Left arm reaches up to the ceiling and you start to push down, and it might be a very small lift or it might be pretty big. It really depends, and it could very much differ from side to side. One more breath here. There's quite a bit of action happening. Stay with that effort. And then start to lower the hips. Walk the hands to the front of your mat. Tuck the toes. Find that Uttanasana forward fold. And then just like you're kind of nourishing the knees and the ankles, drop down into that ball. Feel that little compression, thighs to belly, and then re-extend. 2 more times, drop down into that ball. As you feel your thighs on your abdomen, see if you can kind of keep that as you lift in your fold. 1 more time. Nice little tall ball. Folding forward Uttanasana. And then this time we let the knees very gently settle down, keeping all 10 toes tucked, finding where you're at that measure of stretching the feet but not beyond. And then just resting in the pause of the pose. Just letting yourself be here with whatever sensations are here, with whatever work is here. And then we walk our hands forward. We find that all fours position. We're going to lead with the left this time. Taking the left leg back, find that extended cow back bend. Knee to nose, round it out. Extend. This time toes to the back of the mat, scoop and lift. Right knee drops, back bend. Left knee down. Right leg back and up, back bend. Round, knee to nose. Back and up. Right toes down, scoop and lift the left. Left knee down. Lift the right, back bend. Right knee down. Last side. Left leg back and up. Left knee tucking in. Back. Left toes down, scoop and lift. Right knee down. Lift the left. Tuck your right toes, 3-legged dog. And really allow yourself to work with this 3-legged dog. 1 more full breath here. Hips and shoulders facing the mat. And then lower that left foot down, downward facing dog, about 3 breaths. And in modern postural yoga, there is kind of a little bit of a pressure on us teachers to make it more exercisey, burn the calories, get the heart pumping, move quicker. And yet there's so much to be discovered in the pause of every pose. We'll start to look to the front of the mat. We're going to shift to the sun salutation portion of the practice. So walk the feet forward to the hands, rather. Finding yourself at Uttanasana at the front of your mat. Inhale, you find that half lift with that tabletop spine. Exhale, you fold in, head heavy. Inhale, you rise up, mountain pose. Exhale, hands into heart center. We'll do 2 half salutations, just 2. Circle sweep the arms out and up. Fold over the legs. Half lift. Fold in. Rising up. Even here, finding that pause. So here I am at the top of my mountain. Take a moment, fill that full inhale. Exhale, hands to heart. Inhale, arms sweep out and up, filling that fullness at the top. Exhale, folding forward, really relishing that emptiness at the bottom of the exhale. Inhale brings you to that half lift. Exhale, fold in. Inhale, sweep out and up. We're going to shift into our lunge salutations. We'll have 3 lunge salutation rounds, and we'll have a different set of postures in the middle of each round. So keep your attention alert. We'll release the arms, take a nice full inhale. Exhale, bring the palms together, position 1. Here we go. Reach the arms forward, up. Back bend at the top is 2. Folding over the legs is 3. We'll lead with the left, stepping that left foot to the back of the mat, let the left knee settle down, Anjaneyasana. You're going to sweep your arms forward just until they're parallel to the floor, so not all the way up to the ceiling. Good. Now I want you to take your hands, I'm going to face you so you can see this for a minute, interlace your fingers and push your palms forward. Now for a minute, I want you to keep your elbows straight, but imagine like you're pushing your palms towards an imaginary wall in front of you, and you'll feel your shoulder blades kind of move off the back. Yes. Good. Kind of keep that action and lift the palms to the ceiling. And what you'll find is you get really long through the outer arm. Good. Now soften the sides of your neck and let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Beautiful. Take 2 more breaths here. And as you breathe, I want you to think of the thumb side of your hands lifting up and the pinky side floating back. Yeah. 1 more in-breath. As you exhale, let the hands float down to the mat, step it back, downward facing dog. Beautiful, everybody. Shift forward to your first plank of the practice. You know your options here. You could go to chaturanga or you could do a knees, chest, and a chin, up to you. Sliding to the belly, either cobra or upward facing dog. Everybody knows their level. And coming back together, downward facing dog. We'll keep it flowing as we step the left foot forward in between the thumbs. Right knee melts down. And then again, we sweep the arms forward, but just until they're parallel to the floor. We interlace the fingers, flip the palms, and then for a moment, do this action of kind of pushing into that imaginary wall in front of you, then lift the palms up. So you feel really expansive in the outer wings of the body. Now soften the neck. Relax the very tops of your shoulders. And then think thumbs lift, pinkies drop. Thumbs lift, pinkies drop. Release the hands down to the mat. Step the right foot forward to meet the left. Folding in, position 10. Closing out our first round, reaching arms forward, up and back, 11. Hands together, 12. 2 more rounds. Release the arms, take in that in-breath. Feel the pause at the top. Exhale, palms come together, 1 in front of heart center. Reaching arms forward, up and back bend, 2. Folding, 3. We're gonna keep leading with the left today for every round. So step your left leg back and go ahead and let that left knee melt down. You're gonna walk your hands to your low back as you lift your torso, stacking shoulders over hips. Option 1, just keep the hands stacked on the low back. If your shoulders are feeling good and healthy today, you could interlace and move into chest expansion by sliding the knuckles down the back of the left thigh, rolling the shoulders onto the back and lifting the sternum. Yes, good. Beautiful. Take a breath here, feel this. And we're gonna rise into a high lunge. So you might shift your gaze straight ahead, tuck your left toes, trust the power of your legs as you press up to a high lunge. Take a moment here, bring the breath in, feel that pause at the top of the inhale. And then as you exhale, lean the torso forward diagonally. We're gonna launch into a warrior 3. You could always hop your left foot in a little bit if that feels more supportive, or go straight forward and up, finding your warrior 3. For 2. For 1. You're gonna slowly reach that left foot to the back of the mat. Give yourself one more inhale in that chest expansion. And then gently release. Maybe just kind of roll my elbows. That felt good. Natural. Hands down, step it back, downward facing dog. Beautiful. Now listen up here. We're going to add on. Float your right leg up, three-legged dog. Bend your right knee and lift your right knee up towards the ceiling. We are going to flip our dog, but we're actually going to come all the way to seated. So your right foot is going to go outside the left side of your mat, but your hips are going to come all the way down. Yes. And open up to Janu Shirshasana. So right knee opens out wide like a half butterfly's wing. Sweep the arms up. Fold over that extended left leg for 3 breaths. And just noticing after that pretty extensive effort in that little standing sequence, letting yourself rest. You may notice the exhale a little bit more, that pause at the bottom of the breath. And then you're going to reach the fingertips up. You're going to spin back around straight to plank. So hands to the mat, right leg extends back. You're in your plank. Beautiful. Lower either knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga. Cobra or up dog. And down dog. Take 2 breaths between sides. And then we'll start to move to the second side. So the left foot is going to step forward in between the thumbs. Right knee will melt down. Hands come up to the low back. Initially, we just stack the palms. And your shoulders may be giving you feedback from that first round that maybe you stay here, second round. If you want that chest expansion, find the interlacing of the fingers, extend the elbows, lift the sternum. Take a moment to just settle in here. And then begin to tuck your back toes. Use the strength of your legs to power up to high lunge. Take a full in-breath here. Let the exhale lean the torso forward. And then remember, you can always hop the back foot in or use a little bouncy momentum to launch yourself into your warrior 3. 2 full breaths. And then as you come back to your lunge, reach the right toes to the back of the mat. Beautiful. Take that inhale. Release the hands. Maybe you need to roll through the elbows a couple times. Achiness normal. Hands come down. Step it back. You could go straight to 3-legged dog if you want, or take a brief respite in down dog. But eventually, everybody lift that left leg up, 3-legged dog, bend the knee. Lift your left knee towards the ceiling. You're going to flip your dog, but your hips are going to come all the way to the mat. Finding that Janu Shirshasana, left knee out, arms reach up, folding forward. Beautiful stretch for the low back here. And so even in the sequencing of today's practice, I tried to think of not just action to action to action to action, but kind of choreographing in some moments of pause, even in the sequencing itself. You start to reach the fingertips forward, floating up. You're going to go right back to your plank. So hands on the mat, smooth transition, left leg extends, chaturanga, up dog, down dog. Take a couple breaths there. And just recognizing that there's just as much skillfulness in knowing how to be in the pause of things as there is in the skill of knowing how to do the action part of something. Let's look to the front of the mat, walking, stepping, or you could hop the feet forward, your choice. We're going to go straight up to standing, that position 11, back bend at the top. And then sealing it out, hands to heart center, 12. We've got one more round of these lunge salutations. Release the arms, bring in your breath, inhale. Exhale, palms together, 1. 2, brings the arms forward, up and back. 3, folding over the legs. We're going to continue leading with the left. Left foot back, we're going to stay in a high lunge. Reach those arms straight up. Take a moment just to enjoy this. Just a nice, stable high lunge. If your shoulders or arms are a little tired, you could always have the hands on the waist. We're going to revolve this high lunge, so your left hand is going to come down to the floor. Could be on a block if that feels better. Right arm up. And I almost always notice that the right side of my waist gets a little crunched here because my right hip comes forward. So think of drawing your right hip back and just give a little bit more space to the right side of your waist. Now this sounds different, trust me. Bend your right elbow and place your right hand behind your head. Try to keep your right elbow lifted. Now we're gonna flip our dog like a wild thing. So you're gonna take your right foot behind your left leg, step it up and over, and then push all 8 or 9 pounds of your head into your hand and lean back into a big back bend for 2. Yes, let your right elbow open. 1 more inhale. And then bring yourself to plank, right hand to mat. Ah, beautiful. Vinyasa. Up dog. Down dog. Second side, step that left foot forward. Find that strong, stable high lunge. As you're ready, right hand's gonna revolve. Maybe onto a block, maybe straight to the mat. And then same thing here. Check in if the left side of the waist has gotten a little shortened, like you just cinched it, and just release that cinching. Lengthen it back out, like you're ironing out the wrinkles. And then you start to bend your left elbow, hand behind the head. Before you do anything with that left foot, lift that left elbow up. Good. Now step the left foot up, over, and behind, and push all the weight of your head into the hand. Let that left elbow open. 1 more complete inhale. You've got this. And then flip it around to your plank. Move through a vinyasa. Take a couple breaths in your down dog. Look to the front of the mat, walking, stepping, or hopping. Rising all the way up, position 11. Hands to heart center, 12. Release the arms, moving into about a 30 to 45 second little micro meditation here. Drop back into noticing your breath. Not just the parts of the breath that are doing something, that are inhaling or exhaling, but the part of the breath that's just existing with full breath or existing with no breath. See how much time you can spend in the pause. We'll start to blink open the eyes. We're going to move into a longer standing sequence. We're only doing it once on each side. It's about 10 to 12 poses, if I'm remembering correctly. Okay, we'll hold each one about 4 breaths, which is about 20 seconds each. So long enough to get in it and feel it and be there before we transition to the next pose, okay? We'll start at the front of the mat, mountain pose, And here we go. We'll circle sweep the arms out and up. Fold straight over the legs. This is just getting us there. We haven't really started the flow yet. Step your left foot to the back of the mat. Windmill it up and open, warrior two. And then the first real pose of the sequence is exalted warrior. So flip your right palm, lean back and exalt your warrior. This is often a pose that we only spend half a breath in. You've got 20 seconds here. And the more we lean back, the more we tend to straighten that front knee. So see if you can commit to fully leaning back, exalting your warrior, but deepen the strength in that front knee. You've got one more breath. Now you're going to drop into a supported side angle. So everybody, regardless of ability, right forearm to right thigh, left arm up towards the ceiling. You may have the ability to go into a much quote unquote deeper variation of this pose, but I want you to be here right now. And I want you to just check in without looking at it. Feel, is the right side of your torso, your right rib cage, is it truncated? Is it shorter? And on your next couple of breaths, can you lengthen the right side of your rib cage? Lift back up to warrior two. You're going to take a half bind. So you're going to thread that left arm behind the low back, just like we did in our warm up. Let it settle there. And take about 3 more breaths. I know that right leg's getting tired. There's only one more pose with this knee bent. Now you're going to get to go back into side angle. You're going to keep your half bind. You could bring the forearm back to the thigh as we were before. Or if you're craving a deeper variation, right hand could come to a block or it could come to the floor. Keep that half bind with that left arm. You could gaze ahead, or if it's comfortable for the neck, look up. 2 more breaths. You're going to start to press into Trikonasana, straightening your right leg, maintaining that half bind. And sometimes when we straighten the front leg, depending on your hamstring, you may need to bring in the support of a block. 2 breaths. Not just coming in and out of the poses, but really being in them. You're going to start to drop your gaze down. For a moment, just extend your left arm up towards the ceiling. And you may need to do some kind of like intuitive, kind of fluid, snaky movements with that left arm, because that left shoulder might need a little bit of a massage or some movement. And we're going to step all the way to the front of the mat, Uttanasana. Left foot meets the right, forward fold. Beautiful. Sweep the arms all the way up to standing mountain pose. Take your left hand to your waist, right arm stays reaching straight up. Bend your left knee. This is already a balancing pose. You could stay right here the whole time. If you want Natarajasana, bring left hand to the top of the left foot. Start to push the foot into the hand, finding your king dancer pose. We're going to come right into eagle's pose from here. So you start to lift up. The left leg crosses over the right. Left arm on top of right. And find your eagle pose. Now, just for the sake of knowing your modifications, you're always available to just give yourself a hug and kickstand the left toes if that feels better. And then perhaps the biggest transition of all, from eagle to half moon, right fingertips come down, left leg goes straight back, finding your half moon pose. And then the little bit of fun today, I want you to see if you can trust my cueing. You can also see me. Lower your left hand and walk both of your hands to the left side of your right foot. Now bend your left knee. Okay, now this is going to feel weird. reach your right hand inside your right leg up towards the ceiling and see if you can find your left top of your foot. Then you push the left knee up towards the ceiling. So my left heel is in my perineum. Yeah. Good. That's it. Yes, Lee. Yes. And then we're going to come into a seated twist. So you release the left foot, left knee tucks all the way behind the right heel. Sit all the way down, Ardha Matsyendrasana B. Windmill the arms around, right hand back, left arm around that right knee. Find your twist. And then looking to the front of the mat, coming to pigeon pose, which is the last pose of the sequence. The right knee is going to kind of come down as you reach your left leg back and find your pigeon. And this can be a sleepy pigeon. And just knowing that I'm being really intentional about trying to be more quiet. So we're not always needing to fill the space with something to do. We can experiment with just being in the space. And then we'll move through Vinyasa, whatever that means for you at this point in your practice. So really letting your wisdom guide you, choosing your Vinyasa. We'll take about 20 seconds in either down dog or child's pose before we start that whole sequence on the second side. And we're really allowing the breath to be the primary teacher today. Teaching us not only how to do the action, but how to do the inaction of being in the pause. If you're in child's pose, please rejoin us in downward facing dog. And then as you look forward, we will lead with the left foot as we step forward. Windmill up and open for a very brief warrior two, which is really just us setting up for pose one, which is exalted warrior. So flip the left palm, lean back. Good. And here we are. We've got about 4 breaths. So as you lean back, staying committed to the strength and the depth of that front knee. And then we come into that more shallow variation of side angle. Left forearm to left thigh, right arm up towards the ceiling. And focused on letting the breath keep kind of equal length in the 2 sides of the torso here. Beautiful. I have some great silhouettes of many of you. You look wonderful. You're going to briefly lift back up to warrior two and immediately find that half bind. Right arm behind the low back. Letting that kind of right shoulder kind of soften into that half bind because we're here for a while. And then moving back into side angle. So it could be the forearm returning to the thigh. It could be bringing in the scaffolding of a block or fingertips to the floor. And then let the head drop down to the floor. Straighten that left knee. Find your Trikonasana. You may need to adjust your stance a little bit. And then drawing the gaze either back straight ahead or upwards. And start to unravel that right arm. And if you need a little bit of movement there, take it. Step the right foot forward to the front of your mat, Uttanasana, forward fold. Sweep the arms all the way up to standing mountain pose. We start this longer balancing sequence. We're going to have the right hand come to the waist, left arm stays reaching up, right knee bends, and you're already balancing just by being on one foot. So this could be it, or right hand could find the foot. And then start to kick the foot into the hand. Good. Eagle pose, controlled transition, right thigh over left, right arm over left. Half moon pose, left fingertips down to the floor, right leg back, right arm up. And then this really funky pose, drop the right hand, both hands walk to the right, just inside that left foot. Bend my right knee, I'm lifting my right knee as high as I can. I reach up with my left hand towards the ceiling, I'm inside my left thigh. I try to find the top of my right foot, and then right heel to perineum, right knee up towards the sky. We're going to gently drop down into a seated twist, right knee behind that left heel, windmilling the arms up and around. And then final pose in the sequence, pigeon pose. Left knee is forward, right leg is back, melting in. One of the things I love about practicing being in the pause is it's an incredible lesson in easeful transitions. Because when you spend time in the pause of the breath, the body actually tells you when to inhale and when to exhale without any effort. If you just trust being in the pause, the body knows when to go back into action, and it knows how long to just be and to rest and to observe. We're going to make our way onto our back. So however that is most easily accessed for you. Come onto your back. Find a brief happy baby pose. And particularly in our yoga practice, we often think everything has to be controlled. And being in the pause really is an exercise in just being in the moment, being with something. For Savasana today, if you'd like to take a supine butterfly with the soles of the feet together, maybe one hand on belly, one hand on heart, you could do that. If you prefer a more traditional Shavasana with the legs and the arms extended, by all means, this is your time. And I'm going to give you the next 90 seconds of complete silence. I'm minding the clock. I'm here holding the space. But this is your time. to just rest in the pause of your practice. Give yourself one more breath exactly as you are. And then you can allow the breath to naturally deepen, become a bit more conscious. And you can start to reintroduce very gentle movement in the fingers and toes, wrists and ankles. If it feels good to take a full body stretch, you could reach the arms overhead. And then everyone in their own way and in their own time will return to a comfortable seated position. We close this practice by either bringing the hands on the body as a gesture of gratitude, or placing the palms together as a gesture of the body and the mind coming together as one. We express a special gratitude for the teacher of our breathing today, reminding us how to abide in that space of pause. And we ask that the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light, which sounds like these 4 words in Sanskrit. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Thank you so much for your practice.